Block 1, a huge volume of wet mud bursts forwards and downwards, smashing through the retaining walls. Seconds later, 100,000 cubic meters of mud, approximately the weight of 200 747 jumbo jets, rams into the foundations of Block 1. To begin with, the landslide shoves the entire mass of the building forwards. But this lateral sideways pressure is so powerful that the foundations at the front snap, and Block 1 crashes down.
Highland Tower tragedy was one of the most tragic tragedies in Malaysia. It is the first case that involved high-story apartment collapse. Highland Tower consisted of three 12-story blocks of apartment known as Block 1, Block 2 and Block 3. It was constructed between 1975 and 1978. Directly behind the three blocks was a steep slope. A stream originating upslope from the metro's land flow across part of the slope. The Highland Towers were once notorious in 1988, 1918 and early 1919 for being a popular spot for the wealthy people. On Saturday, 11 December 1993, about 50 years later, after 10 days of continuous rainfall, a landslide occurred, resulting in the collapse of Block 1. The collapse of the Block 1 of the apartment caused the death of 48 people and led to the complete evacuation of the other two blocks due to safety concern. After the collapse of Block 1, the residents of Block 2 and 3 were prevented from entering their apartment by Majlis Pembadaran Ampang Jaya to avoid the same tragedy repeat.
In general, there are many factors that cause this tragedy from happen. First, the construction of building on the edge of the hill even not suitable, especially in equatorial and tropical climate, high rainfall. Building apartment on the hillside is also against with the Land Conservation Act 1960. The act prohibits the development carried out on the hillside with a slope greater than 80 degrees for reason connect to the environment. Inconsistency between the Land Conservation Act with the Environment Quality Act 1974.
Implications of the tragedy is about 48 people lost their lives that have been discovered and identified. The victims are mainly Malaysian with 12 progenies that consist 1 Britain, 1 Japanese, 2 Indians, 2 Koreans, 3 Philippines and 3 Indonesians. It caused loss of property worth millions of ringgit. Review of effects of environment with by the authorities, the possibility of public response on the hillside housing will decrease. This raises concern among developers. Next is also cause damage to the environment seriously affected areas, and the environment damage of surrounding area and its amendment of the existing act related to environment. Finally, it's also possibilities of decreasing demands over residential on hillsides.
The tragedy. A cabinet committee has been formed to address all the problems associated with the tragedy, chaired by the Deputy Prime Minister. Second, the state government has set up a special investigate body that handled by MPAJ to determine the cause of the incident. The cabinet has decided to stop this immediately. The all tall building project approved in the hill until the new policy is approved. As the result, the Deputy Prime Minister announced that the federal government will formulate a policy related to development in the high hill
that are involved in this tragedy. The code had been developed by Board of Engineering Malaysia, as known as BEM. First code of professional conduct by BEM is a registered engineer shall at all times call promote the safety, health and welfare of the public. The
situation is when the professional advice of a professional engineer is overruled and amended contrary to his advice, the professional engineer shall give risk to situation that may endanger life, property, notify his employer or client and such other authority, and explain the consequence to be expected as a result of his advice being overruled and amended. For the second defendant, which is architect, did not having ensure educated drainage and retaining walls were built on hill slopes adjacent to the Highland Tower. Highland Tower site also that will pose a danger to the buildings he was in charge of. Moreover, the architect did not also investigating the terracing of the hill slopes and construction of retaining walls, even though he was aware they would affect the buildings he was in charge of. And also in essence, as he was an unreasonable user of land. For the third defendant, which is the engineer did not having taken into account the hill or slopes being the towers, not having implemented that approved drainage scheme. Furthermore, the engineers did not design and constructed a foundation to accommodate the lateral loads of a landslide, or alternatively to have ensured the adjacent hill slopes was stable.
Shall conduct himself honorably, responsibly, ethically and lawfully, so as to enhance the honor, reputation and usefulness of the profession. For the second defendant of the new case, a registered engineer shall check with due diligence the accuracy of fact and the data before he sign any statement or claim. He shall not sign on such document unless, where necessary, qualification on errors and inaccuracy have been made. Architect did not comply with the requirement of the authorities in respect of drainage, including with the developer and engineer, to obtain a certificate of finance without fulfilling the condition imposed by local authority.
The BEM had also taken part to investigate the collapsing of the Highland Towers. A technical committee was formed to investigate the tragedy and led by Dr. Nick Ramlan. After the investigation finished, the committee came up with a result that concluded: first, the retaining wall were constructed in the hazardous manner, which is somewhere located on the Highland Tower with the rest in the Arab-Malaysian land. The second, all drainage and geotechnical experts who testified in this case agree that the flow regime of the east stream into the pipe culvert running across the hill is highly undesirable and dangerous. Due to the technical committee result, the third defendant, which is IR Wong Yuan Kian, was called to a call hearing by the Board Engineering Malaysia BEM for his involvement in the Highland Towers collapse. At the hearing, BEM found IR Wong guilty on the ground that he, first, did not dispute that he was responsible for the drainage design. Second, admitted that the whole drainage system was not complete. The third, had advised the Majlis Daerah Gombak in the application of CFO as drainage system was an integral part of the project. The fourth, had failed to exercise due care that the slope was reasonably stable. So, in mitigation, IR Wong pleaded that from the completion of the towers to the collapse, others may have constructed wall which made the slope steeper, causing its collapse. He had no previous charge against him. Apart from the Highland Towers, he had all material time conducted his professional duty based on his judgment and had never intended to compromise on safety. He was not the sole person responsible for the collapse of the towers. Thus, the court had decided that he was only 10% liable for it. The board considered the long stop liability as after some time others may change the surrounding of the building. Cancellation of registration is too severe and harsh. So, in the end of the hearing, Board Engineer of Malaysia had concluded that IR Wong's misconduct showed that he had no regard for public safety, which resulted in the death of 48 people, thus contravening Rule 20C of the Registration of Engineer Rule 1972. The board had taken a decision to cancel his registration under Section 15 of the Registration of Engineers Act 1967. Thank you. That we have learned from this case study. First, Highland Tower tragedies need to be taken deep lesson to all parties that involved in retaining the environment.
Second, the tragedy showed a human failure in managing the development in harmony parallel with the environment.
Third, it reflects the appreciation of our weakness of environmental ethics among citizens of Malaysia.
Smart sound.